All right, it's going to take a minute just to get streaming on Facebook and everything, and then we'll get started, everybody. So just give us one more minute. Of course, it's taking extra long today. All right, we should be good to go. Doesn't seem like it's working, but we're going to go ahead and get started just to be mindful of everybody's time. And I'll get the stream up and going here in a minute. So first, I want to thank everybody for joining us today for our Highlander Wisdom webinar on using, hold on one second, I forgot to record. That's the one thing I forgot to do. Okay, now we can start. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our Highlander Wisdom webinar on using persuasion as a sales technique. My name is Frank West. I'm the Senior Regional Coordinator for Alumni Engagement here in the Office of Alumni Relations. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone to feel free to ask your questions by either using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen or using the chat box as well. We're excited to have Mike Dopp with us, class of 1987 today, to lead us in our discussion. Good afternoon, Mike. Thanks for joining us today. Mike, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Well, absolutely, Frank, and thank you for the introduction. Coming to you live today from Central Connecticut, certainly many, many miles from the beautiful New River Valley of Virginia. However, I always feel like I can blink and find myself back on campus at RU, whether it's running around the Dedman Center, cramming in the library, or just hanging around Muse, where I lived for a couple of years, or Heath Hall. We have so much to talk about today, but I do want to say a quick thank you to Michelle Carlson and Frank West, both from the alumni engagement team. Michelle reached out a couple of months ago, and we spent some time together and kind of crafted this piece. And I'm so honored to be part of the Highlander Wisdom series today. And I hope that some of the information will convey to each and every one of you, and you can take one or two things away. I'm so grateful for my time at Radford. Overall, I was lucky enough to be a student athlete for 4 years and still have some great friendships with my ex-soccer teammates. But a lot of my time was spent as being a feature writer for the Tartan newspaper, as well as a copywriter for the yearbook. And that kind of was the genesis of my fascination with words and writing, and being able to send a message kind of indirectly to readers, and utilize some persuasion techniques. And some of the things we'll talk about today are really persuasion as sales tactics, but they can really be kind of utilized in every aspect of your life, which is fantastic. Just real quick, a little bit about me. For the last 34 years, I've been in consumer goods and corporate sales, working with large-scale retailers across the country. I started my career with Bristol Myers Squibb, and they're certainly known for their great sales training program, in addition to iconic brands across the board there. I then spent a very long time with Hallmark Cards in a vast variety of sales and sales management, sales director positions that took me all over the United States. I was able to work with cross-functional teams here domestically as well in Asia. And so got a tremendous amount of experience working for Hallmark. And most recently, I got together with a group of ex-Hallmarkers in the sales and marketing divisions, and we formed a retail sales consulting group, and where we would design programs and sales teams to obviously drive business. And out of that, I'm currently working for a Connecticut company called Shelter Logic Group. A bunch of really neat products, and I'm working on a business development plan for them to ramp up their business across a kind of a consortium of major retailers, national retailers. And so I'm really excited to do some business there. So let's jump into a little bit of the content here, if we can. Kind of like a big circle, I always say, everything comes back to RU in my mind. My favorite class that I took in my 4 years was taught by Dr. Michael Cronin. Not only was he my mentor, but he was an occasional tennis partner. And we spent many, many hours, whether it was after class or whether it was after a tennis match, kind of hashing out language. And he was an absolute master of his craft of utilizing persuasion and our spoken language, and essentially delving into sales and relationships. And all those learned techniques I took away from Dr. Cronin's class, I've been able to kind of plug into all aspects of my life, whether it's been business, personal, and most importantly, and I just want to make this point, you know, persuasion has oftentimes for people has a negative connotation to it. I think it couldn't be anything different, to be quite frank with you. I'm a keen observer of how persuasion works, especially in the sales world, but you can also use it for relationship development. And it's not just getting what you want, it's making sure that everybody's satisfied, whether it's a business deal, whether it's a personal situation. And I want everybody to kind of keep their ears open as consumers. We are all consumers of something. And so whether it's a contractor coming to your house to give you a bid on redoing your kitchen or landscape, whether you are out buying a refrigerator or an automobile, whether you are out negotiating a cell phone rate, I kind of want you to remember some of the tactics and scenarios that we'll review, and maybe you could utilize them and hone your own craft and your own style of persuasion, if you will. We are going to talk about sales, of course, because that's what I do, and that's really my passion. And I just want to reiterate what Frank had mentioned. It's an open discussion. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, please, by all means, shoot them into the chat box or the Q&A box, and Frank will relay those back over, and we'll try to get them answered as best as possible. So what are we going to cover? We're going to talk through, again, this sales cycle and kind of the circular notion of this. What is the setup? What am I walking into? Again, you can look at it from both sides. Are you selling, or are you the consumer or the buyer? Have I set goals for my meeting or my appointment? Have I thought out objections? This is super important. Again, doing your homework. Have I thought about things that they might say to me that potentially will come up and could be a kind of a road bump, if you will, a speed bump along the way. So what tactics can I use? And we're going to cover those, a couple of ones, trust and expertise that everybody has. And that's not something that you just have to, read a book. Everybody has those innately. And I think that you'll be surprised at how much you really do have. And know the scenarios. This is critical. I'm going to bring up 5. There's definitely more, but I'm going to bring up 5 of the most common scenarios that you'll face. Again, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, but you will face down the road as a salesperson, as a consumer, as a negotiator. Wordplay. Again, I'll kind of go back to my relationship with Dr. Cronin at Radford and why words are so important in communication, both good and bad. And we'll cover both sides of the fence there. Perfecting your pitch. this is kind of the culmination of all of these pieces pulling together as you go and try to close deals, as you go and try to, maybe you're trying to mend a relationship, maybe you're trying to start a new relationship. All of these come back to your own persuasive style and how you can effectively deploy that, whether it's in business or personal. By the way, thank you, Michelle, also for my great mug. I appreciate it. Always repping RU. So let's talk through kind of the kickoff here, setting yourself up for success and how you are going to determine your persuasion path. We talked a little on the previous slide about goal setting. It's very critical that you do have goals going in. Maybe it is I need to walk out of here with an order, or maybe it is a meet and greet. But you want to at least leave them with the most positive thoughts in their head about you, your business, your personality. It's important to have goals with anything in life. So type of sale. This is where it kind of gets down to the nitty gritty. Is this a transactional sale? So is it a one-time deal? Is it I'm the consumer, I'm going to buy a refrigerator and I'm not going to buy another one for 20 years. So is it transactional? Is it you won't see this person again? Is it contractual, which is much different? And in today's corporate world, so much of business is done on a contract basis. So essentially you'll sign a 5-year deal with a client, and then you have to come up with a volume driver every single year to meet that contract. And so is that more of a long-term relationship type of sale? Is it emotional? Have you been approached by somebody and they are desperate for product? Their business is going to close down if you can't get to them, or somebody just bought a new car and all of a sudden they have no insurance and you're an insurance agent. And they're scrambling because they want to get out on the road. So doing your homework, up in the upper right corner. Listen, in today's world, just about anything is acceptable. I highly recommend LinkedIn stalking, if you will. There is nothing wrong with that. And as a matter of fact, if you don't, I think you're putting yourself behind and you will be behind your competition. Can you delve in and find some shared interest? Can you find common contacts that you might have out there? You'd be surprised at the networking that goes on now across the country, across the world, and how people they will have common contacts with you, and you can oftentimes kind of maneuver through those channels to get in on the forefront of an appointment or a deal. Knowing your audience. Who are you meeting with? Have you confirmed it? Do you have the right materials? Do you have enough materials? And let's face it, back to the social piece of it, especially during COVID, the virtual business dealings and Zoom and Teams, and it's just been ramped up so much, but it doesn't mean it has to slow you down. It doesn't mean that you can't utilize your persuasive techniques over Zoom or over Teams or whatever media source you're using. As a matter of fact, a lot of times it moves a lot quicker, but it's still you gotta make sure that you're saying the right thing, and we're gonna talk through how to do that. Prepare for the unexpected. Who might be in the meeting? So I always go back to a kind of a crazy story. I was calling on a major North American retailer, and I was calling on the vice president. We had met and we went down to their cafeteria for lunch. And next thing I know, I'm tapped on the shoulder, and it's the CEO of the company. And he essentially called me right out in front of everybody, wanting to know why their go-to-market strategy was different than their biggest competitor. And so I kind of had to shift gears and go to my bullet point under there about being consistent. As you as the content expert, you as the product expert, your job is really to use those pieces of expertise to kind of qualify your situation and ensure that you're telling the same story, because I certainly couldn't tell a different story than I've been telling all day to the vice president. And I just explained how, our market research had been done and thoroughly vetted out, and we found that their clientele and their customers expected a certain type of go-to-market strategy. And once those proof points were laid out, I kind of could exhale, but yet I had to stay calm. And even though I was certainly very nervous on the inside. So that's kind of back to that prepare for the unexpected, right? And then you have to always think, somebody sitting there across the desk, or you're having coffee with somebody and they're really thinking, why should I buy from this person? Times have really changed. No longer is sales has become really highly technical, and consultative selling is really the mode that you have to be in. So you are coming with an expertise, you're coming with solutions, and certainly those things you have to concentrate on as you work your persuasive techniques. So here's some of the tactics that we talked about, and these are all, again, nothing out of the ordinary, but these are 5 critical tactics that you can use as you hone your craft as a buyer or a consumer. I always put trust as the number one component there. Do your clients trust you? Do you trust the person you're buying from? Do they like you? Do you have a honesty, a likability to you? Or will you need to persuade them to like you? And how do I do that? And so some of the examples I always talk through are actions, speak louder than words ultimately. Am I following through? Am I doing what I told them I would do? Have I delivered on the things that I promised to them by a certain date? Have I listened? Remember, persuasion comes in many forms, and listening to me is a very underutilized form of persuasion. So listening and then speaking when the timing is right. And that's when this next one, expertise, might come into play. Again, I mentioned being a content expert, or I mentioned Dr. Cronin be a master of his craft. Excuse me. Your knowledge is paramount to your success. And so doing your homework, like we talked about on the previous slide, being prepared, all of those things, good things will fall into place for those folks who are kind of, ready for anything, if you will. And so then deliver an opinion. Well, Jim, I've been out in the marketplace for the last 3 days. I've seen all of your competition. I've seen their merchandising assortments. And here's where I feel as you could make a splash with product A, B, and C. So you have proven that you have done your homework, you've done the legwork, and as a content expert, you're giving them an honest opinion, which more times than not is the perfect conversation starter. Can't say enough about, again, being prepared and offering an opinion to them. And again, it can kind of be a half opinion. Well, I think that this would be good for you. Or it can just be, I'm confident this is good for you. Again, conversation starters, and then back to the whole listening component there. Complimenting them. And I always kind of laugh. This can be a little tricky. You don't want to come off as phony. You know, give them a business compliment. I love your assortment over in your floral department. I love your array of Lego products. You know, your tires, I've never seen anything like that in my life, the number of tire selections you have. Just giving you a couple of examples, you know, versus, you know, telling them that, you know, how great their haircut is or whatever. It really needs to be more of a authentic compliment. But again, it's conversation starters. It's manipulating words to persuade them that, hey, you're here. You want to get this done. You're not just messing around. And so again, persuasion is such a powerful tool, but you can compliment and you just have to be a little careful with it. So stats and figures. This is really more and more kind of sealing the deal, if you will. Fact-based decision-making across the board in the corporate world, in the insurance world, financial services. It's also meaningful now. But this is another persuasive tool that you have in your bag that you can pull out and utilize. And whether it's, I just gave a couple of examples, you know, here's how I'm going to grow your revenue. Here's how we're going to generate revenue. Here's cost savings for you. Again, kind of critical, everything leading to their bottom line. Return on investment. So here's my pitch to you. Here's my product line, and here's what kind of profitability it offers. And that's what, you know, then it can generate progress on your bottom line. So that's a really key part of your persuasive tactic. How to take stats and figures and make sure you understand the data points before laying them out there. The worst thing you can do is just kind of throw them out there and you're not really sure what they mean. So again, be prepared. The last tactic is really just asking rhetorical questions. I hate to be redundant here, but it's back to opening up the gates for conversation. You know, something as simple as, hey, who doesn't want more sales? It's kind of a no-brainer for any type of buyer. Who doesn't want to be better protected with our insurance policy XYZ? You know, who doesn't want a larger variety of this product line in a store or in a retail outlet? So those are really the tactics that you can start off with as you prepare, and then as you lead your sales pitch, and then everything will really come through as we walk into these scenarios that I'm going to approach next. This is kind of cool how you and everybody here has been part of at least one of these scenarios. I can guarantee it. We could have 500 people on the phone, and all 500 would definitely have been in this situation. So these, I want you to take a look at these, and as a sales leader or as a consumer, think about some instances where you may have experienced these scenarios, and maybe they made you uncomfortable. Maybe they made the buying process easier. It's really you know, how you received it and how persuasive the pitch was on both sides. So the first one, kind of playing on danger. This is an interesting one, and you can certainly think of the insurance industry as utilizing these type of words: risk, mistake, stress. Certainly, you know, a customer goes to an insurance agent and says, "Hey, my 16-year-old twins just got their driver's license, licensees. We need to reduce our risk." And boom, that's an open-ended entry right into the danger and the fear element of it. I'm scared. I need to protect my family. I need to reduce my stress. And so on the flip side, the agent, yes, you need to reduce your stress. So here are 3 product options that we have, with deductibles ranging from ABC. Let's make sure we don't make a mistake. Again, I want you to kind of focus on some of these words and how they drive emotion inside of you, and what they trigger. Urgency is a great one. Play on urgency. And so let's face it, with social media and everything else, we hear about FOMO all the time, fear of missing out. So that's one that, you look at these words here: new, final chance, expires. So it's really putting some deadlines or some hard stops on whatever you're pitching to your customer. These are extremely persuasive words. We need to get you in on the forefront. This is brand new. Don't you want to be the first one with this? Or final chance. This is the last time we'll have this. We won't have any more. So, you better step it up and better buy something today. Exclusivity. This is one, again, you have to be a little bit careful with, but we've got, hey, listen, we have some pricing, and it's really only being offered to certain customers. You're one of the select few. My management has given us the go ahead for an invite only pricing schedule for you. Again, that kind of bounces between the urgency and the exclusivity plays there, but both of them are super, super effective. And, if you look at your role as a consumer, that's something you have to think about too. Am I truly going to miss out on something? Do I want the best pricing? Am I ready to buy? So, think about it in those terms. So, play on trust. This is another one that I always feel like you better have some backup here, and you better have some facts and either statistics or results of some sort of market research, because anytime you give a kind of a backed or dependable phrasing out there as you move your persuasion towards trying to close a deal, I always feel like you really need to be able to say why. Why is that dependable? Well, our research has shown us that, over the last 10 years, we've only had 2% of breakage in this particular product, which is obviously a very low number. It's backed by a guarantee. So we will take it back if something goes wrong. You have it in writing, or it's proven. We did market research for the last 5 years before we even launched, and it's proven. It worked in all of our market research. We have vetted it out. Intrigue. So this is a great one. Again, kind of working that intrigue and exclusivity are a little bit of the same thing, but this is kind of secret. Please don't repeat this. But I'm able to bring this to you. We can do this. We do it today. Again, you always have to be careful of that. I always think of some experiences. I'm not going to mention the industry, but if we do this today, here's what you can get. And so that's a little bit more of a strong arm technique, the intrigue piece, but again, it's very effective. So no pressure, but if you feel like throwing back some words that persuade you, or something that motivates you as a consumer, or something that's been effective for you as a salesperson, I'd love for you to send those to Frank. Again, no pressure, but please throw them back in the Q&A box, and we can bring them out here in just a little bit. So kind of boiling those down, the scenarios down, here's just a few of my favorite words. And this is why I always feel like persuasion sometimes gets a bad rap as a word, because these are really 5 of my favorites, and 5 where I've had a lot of success utilizing them. But most people are very, very ready to move forward if they know they're getting something exclusive. It can be a color of a car. It can be a product line that they will have exclusive rights to for the next 12 months. It can be a lot of things, but the persuasion effect of exclusive is a remarkable, remarkable outcome. Easy. This is another one. As a consumer, this is critical. I know it. I'm a consumer. You're a consumer. If somebody can make something easy for me, no problem. I'm going to take your order down. I'm going to process it while you're standing here. We're going to get this to you in the next 48 hours. That sounds pretty easy to me. Hey, you know what? I know you're struggling on your terms. We're going to give you an extra 60 days of dating. That's making it easy. So easy is another powerful word. Another one of my favorites. Limited. I threw this one in here because you have to be a little bit careful with this word. And so as a consumer, how many times have you been approached and say, hey, we've got this limited offer, or you get an email, limited time offer? Well, it might be limited, but what if it's 10 million pieces? That's a limit, but you don't really know that. So you have to be a little bit careful when you hear that word limited, and maybe as a consumer, don't let that draw you in. But as a salesperson, it is effective to at least spark some interest. Guaranteed. This, again, it really is a deal sealer. If you've got some pretty ironclad guarantee behind your product line, or something that as a consumer you've received, that word, that notion, that's powerful. Guaranteed is a great persuasive word. Good, better, best. This is another, it's kind of a popular buzz term around the sales industry right now, but it's very effective. And I'll tell you why. You might have a customer where better is their wheelhouse, is their sweet spot. They might not want good. And again, I'll kind of go back to that, to my insurance example, where they may have deductibles at certain levels. One of them's good, one of them's better than good, and then one of them is the highest highest level deductible they have. And so think about that you may approach somebody and better is just fine for them. Okay. They don't want to be the low end. They're not a value outlet, but they really can't afford the pricing on on best. And so if you kind of have those levels and options, again, you're being more of a consultant. You're being more of a solution driver. Great, effective words. Really, really enthusiastic about that good, better, best coupling there. I also threw a few on here that are very ineffective. And so never. Sounds like a deal breaker to me. How about instead of never, I think we're close. Close sounds better than never in my book, and something that I've utilized. Maybe. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence as a consumer. Maybe just doesn't sound right, does it? Always. I can tell you in my 34-year career, I have never seen always. Always, again, is something that I don't think it exists. So I'd be careful about using always. And then honestly is another one where, it might come out of your mouth, and then somebody on the other side is going to be thinking, well, maybe they haven't been honest with me the whole time. So you shouldn't have to tell them again why you're being honest about it.
Mike, we actually had a question pop in, and I think now is a good time to kind of ask this
Great.
question.
Awesome.
Somebody said, I work at a wealth management company that involves selling myself and my company to people a lot older than me. What are some tips for someone in their kind of mid 20s to get people in their 60s and 70s to kind of trust them with their money?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'll kind of go back to, Frank, if you will, I'll go back to that whole piece where you are the content expert. And so, yes, I might be young, but I do have a background. I've spent a lot of time training. I've done cross training with reps that might be older than me, where I've learned a lot. I do have experience, and again, I'm basing this on somebody who maybe they've been in the industry for 4 or 5 years, right? They might be in their late 20s, and they're selling to much older clientele. I also go back to that whole listening component, and then when to strike with your expertise, which was a tactic that I brought up, and the trust factor. A lot of relationships are multi-generational in just about every business setting. And so I always think that, personally, I never really think about the age of somebody that I'm dealing with. I always think about what are my goals. And so I think that salesperson who put in the question, I think they really do have to think about their goals. And maybe they've recognized the fact that they have to overcome maybe some road bumps, maybe some doubt. And that's where hopefully they can grab 2 or 3 pieces out of the persuasion toolkit here that I've laid out and kind of, maneuver themselves around and just be really, really cognizant about listening and then providing solutions. Be that consultant, be that content expert. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, so we're coming down the home stretch here and kind of perfecting your pitch. And, these are just 4 things that I always think about. Less is more. Sounds trite. It just a couple of simple words there, but really less is more. And maybe I'll go back to the question that came in. I don't think you really have to oversell yourself to your older clientele. I think you have to be your product expert, and I think you have to be a listener. And then when the timing is right, you can pack that into 1 or 2 sentences and just say, yes, I have a solution for you, and here's why. And so kind of clearing the objection hurdles is great, because that person who's sending the question has already thought about that. They've said, all right, one of the objections is maybe that I'm young, and they might have some doubts about my capabilities, but I'm gonna work hard to make sure that I've done my homework. I am going to listen, and then I'm going to talk, but I'm not going to talk that much. Here's my pitch. It's going to be 2 or 3 sentences. You don't have to oversell. You don't have to sell twice. Let's make sure that we're all clear on that. And we'll see some signals here in a minute. And then I just want to finish the pitch with the so what syndrome, because this is big. This is really big. So you walk in and you've done all your research and you say, oh, my product line is up 20% in your establishment. So what? What does that mean? You're going to hear that time and time again. And that's when you've done your homework and you say, well, my competitor is up 4%. I have a 16% higher sell-through rate and higher revenue generation rate than they do. That's impactful. So always be aware of that so what syndrome, okay? That's really, really important. So the one thing we haven't gone through yet, and kind of our last part of the whole sales cycle is what? That's right. We have to close the deal. And I love the fact that Michelle and Frank put that on the header, trying to close more deals, because You know what? So many people walk in and don't ask for the order. They don't ask for the business. They don't close properly. And this is, you've done most of your persuasion at this point in time. And, you know, it can be gentle or it can be very overt. It's kind of the signals. And so I put just a couple of the positive signals out there. Sounds good. This works. How soon can you deliver? Those are when you've sold it. You don't have to sell it again. It's done. How about the flip side? I'm not sure. I'll get back to you. And don't worry about those. Those are okay. You're going to get those probably 50, 60% of the time. And that's, again, where your relationship development skills that you've honed and your persuasion skills, and you say, that's fine. I'm going to call you in 3 days. I'm going to go back and see if I can sharpen my pencil a little bit on our deal. And in those 3 days, I hope that you will do some homework too, Mr. Buyer, Mr. Consumer, and you'll be able to come back to me with what you're really looking for, because I feel confident that we have a solution for you. So again, don't take those as rejections. Those are common buying tactics. You're going to have to overcome them at some point or another. Here's just some 1.5 liners that are great. When can I expect the PO, the purchase order? That's pretty overt, right? If we can find a way to deal with this hurdle or your objection that you've laid out, then do I have your commitment? That's kind of gentle, right? A gentle close. Are you ready to move forward? I can have the contract done for you today. I think that's a little bit of both. I think you're persuading them that you are ready to take action, but you're also giving them a little bit more time to talk. After hearing all your needs and requirements, it looks like option A and C are the best fits. Which one do you want to go with? And so I'll regenerate our insurance deductible scenario. So you're being fairly overt, but at the same time, you're letting them talk and letting them choose. And the last one, of course, is just a joke, but trust me, I had to be very persuasive when I got married, when I asked my wife to marry me. So you have to be ready to close the deal. And that's one just on a personal note that, you know, do your homework, do your persuasion techniques, and definitely be on the lookout for the scenarios on page 6 that we talked about. Trust, expertise, you know, fear of missing out, all those scenarios that we encounter. Well, I know we have Q&A coming up if there's any additional ones, but I really, really appreciate you spending some time with me today. Again, I'm so honored to be part of the Highlander Wisdom Series. I think this is just a phenomenal platform that RU has put together, and I'm so glad that so many folks have been able to listen in today, and from all different walks, administration, alumni, students, friends, family. It's really, again, my pleasure to be able to do this. And I just kind of want to close with, you know, take some time and think about how persuasion can help you. You know, and it can be personal or it can be career-wise. I hope that some of this has resonated, and Frank, I'm not sure if we'll be able to get the presentation out. If we will, great. But I know it's also was live streamed on YouTube and Facebook. Follow the cycle, or the sales cycle, as I called it. You know, do these things. Do your homework. Master the tactics. Know the scenarios so you can be aware of those. Wordplay. Perfect your pitch. Close. And please, by all means, if we're not connected, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I love networking. I love meeting new people, and let me know how I can help you. And whether it's through networking, I also do a great deal of coaching. Maybe you have a job interview coming up that I can help you with. Or maybe you want, to talk about next move in your career. I'm always open and willing to have a conversation with anybody out there, and especially if they're a Highlander. So go RU. I always wear my red with pride, and again, I'm so happy to be part of this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. And we're now going to open up the floor to some questions. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to get you to. Oh, no, just kidding. Press the wrong button. We will open up the floor to questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them using the Q&A button or as well as in the chat box. Mike, we did have one question come in that was there any time that you kind of used persuasion when you were at Radford, even if you didn't know exactly how to do it the right way then?
Wow, that's a really cool question. And I think the best way I would answer that is probably from my experience as being a student athlete. And a lot of times, you come in as a freshman and you're unknown and you want to break in, you want to get along with your teammates, you want to prove yourself. And, frankly, I had to utilize persuasive techniques just in my performance. And so that's when you kind of that action, do what you said you were going to do. Okay, I'm going to work hard. I am going to train. I am going to make that pass when I have that opportunity. I will take that shot. I will, do the right things on the field. So that's one thing that I always think about, again, back to the actions. It doesn't always have to be wordplay, but how do you persuade others to kind of take you in and accept you for what you are?
Awesome. Are there any books or podcasts on persuasion that you recommend? And then what books are on your nightstand? What are you reading right now?
Yeah, so I don't have a litany of books right now on persuasion, but I can certainly I'll get some to you and Michelle that I have, and I apologize, they're probably sitting in my office. I actually read a lot of biographies, and specifically political biographies and military biographies, and I always find the best leaders are incredibly persuasive, or were very persuasive, or else they probably would not have ended up in the capacity that they did. And I always find that, whether it's through direct or indirect language, whether it's through a memo they may have sent down the pike with some important messaging in there, I always am fascinated at those folks that kind of reach the highest peak of their profession. And so listen, those guys, they live persuasion. And so I always recommend, Thomas Jefferson's biography is one of my favorites. And so, I always think that, back to some of our forefathers, if you will, pretty neat stuff. And back then they were really, very persuasive, trust me.
Right. How would you say your persuasion techniques kind of have evolved from when you started to where you are now?
Oh my gosh. I think about the first question that was sent in, and how I really was fresh breaking into the corporate business world and a little bit unsure of myself. And, I had to really kind of ramp up my persuasive game and understand what it took to get sales deals done. And part of that being that content expert. So it really was spending a lot of time training myself on products, training myself on protocols within the organization, and then knowing my customer. And so I swung and missed, too many times to count early on in my career. And luckily I was able to overcome them, but it wasn't easy. And nobody has it easy out there. I think that it takes a lot of hard work.
Somebody said, I feel like I've come on too strong in the past when trying to make a sale. How do you handle that? And do you have any advice moving forward?
Yeah, sure. That kind of the over aggressive sales techniques. Certainly they work in some industries. Some industries they don't. I'll kind of go back to the middle of my presentation and talk through the listening component, and the less is more. That mantra I have just tried to live by, especially in the last half of my career. And it can be a presentation deck. Your presentation deck doesn't have to be 50 pages. Maybe it's 4, okay? And you just put your key elements on there, and then it's a discussion, right? You need to be more of a consultant versus a transactional salesperson. So whoever sent that in, I would just recommend that they truly work on their listening skills, and then have 4 or 5 solutions in mind where they can lay them out and say, hey, these look like they'd be the 4 best solutions for you. Let's talk through each of them and then have you pick. And again, back to that consultant role, very effective.
Cool. What is one top sales skill that we can apply on a day-to-day basis at work to stand out?
Yeah, that one's easy. Organization. I tell you, and it's certainly one that I have struggled with over the course of my career. It is so important to stay organized. Know where you can find your facts, your stats, your reports. Where can I find my contact list? Are they in 3 different folders, or have I sorted them out? Organization to me is paramount. It's critical key number 1. That's how I'd answer that, Frank.
Awesome. And then I have one last question, unless another one pops in, that's from our office. And we want to know how your Radford network kind of influences you still to this day.
Yeah, sure. Listen, I'm very thankful to have such a dear friendship with Laura Turk in your office, and she's really been somebody who's kept me engaged over the years, and I kind of lean on folks like that. And when I spoke to her, maybe a year ago or so, and kind of talked through some opportunities to engage back with the university, she was just the perfect person, and I'm honored to have her as a friend. And so I think that I kind of will lean on people from my Radford network, and I keep in very close contact with several soccer teammates, and I'm always aware of things that pop up on LinkedIn or Facebook. And I never miss an update on RU, and I think the university has done an incredible job of really promoting itself and advancing itself in that capacity. And so I'm thankful for you guys. I mean, you guys are the ones that drive my my relationship with RU.
Awesome. Well, I want to say thank you for joining us today. And also want to say a special thank you to you as well for being an admissions and volunteer for us and writing postcards for us like you do. So I want to say thank you for that. If anybody has any questions and wants to follow up with Mike, please reach out and we can get you into contact with him. Yeah, so we have a couple exciting webinars planned for the next couple of months, so definitely check back with us for those. Another thing that Mike participated in was our coffee chats, and that's another opportunity to kind of get engaged with us, learn about different opportunities, and we can help find the right opportunity for you. So I encourage everybody to do that in the meantime. And then I do want to plug a couple events. First, we have our Radford Day at Nationals Park. Tickets went on sale this week. That's taking place on August 13th at Nationals Park. 2 years ago, we didn't have a game last year, but 2 years ago we had over 800 of our closest friends at the game, and we're looking forward to another fantastic day. So definitely get your tickets purchased. They do sell fast, and if you purchase your tickets through our special Radford link, you'll get a Radford and Nationals branded bobblehead. So definitely join us on that day. The next event I want to plug is obviously Homecoming, taking place September 30th through October 2nd. We're very excited to finally be together again after the crazy year we had apart. So definitely come back to campus. We're going to have a band. We're going to have a lot going on. So definitely check out everything exciting going on with that. And then, as always, follow us on social media, reach out to us with any questions. And we look forward to seeing everybody at an event real soon. Thanks again, and we will see everybody next time. Go Highlanders.
Awesome.
Thank you again, Mike. All right.